Well, that's what Jiu-Jitsu is about, right? Making sure you are comfortable being uncomfortable.
Hey, welcome to Mat Chats, Meat Pies and Açaí and Getting Uncomfortably Intimate with Other Humans. I'm Richard Kavanagh. This is Professor Thiago Braga, and we are here to bring you the sweatiest, awkwardest Jiu-Jitsu chat on the internet. Hey, I've got to ask you this question as a Brazilian. What's the equivalent of a steak and cheese pie in Brazil?
Well, steak and cheese pie. We have different parts of Brazil, different foods, but I will say our staple is rice and beans, arroz e feijão. It's like your
Arroz e feijão.
arroz and feijão, which is rice and black beans.
Hey, nice.
That I would say is, but you know, Brazil, different foods, different areas.
That sounds healthier than a steak and cheese pie for sure.
Yeah.
So today we want to start by breaking down the Subversion X8.
Subversion
card.
X8 card.
Yeah, man. So both of us are going to be commentating on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's been really cool. I think I've been commentating with Grant, which has been amazing. He's been guiding me through all this time. But to have the chance to sit side by side with you and try that out, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun, man. And for me, it's my debut commentating on a sports event. I've been thinking for a long time, how do I get my other life outside of Jiu-Jitsu to cross over into Jiu-Jitsu? And this is the perfect opportunity. So I'm pumped. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I believe you are professional at it already. You know, giving out speech, talking in public. So, you know, and bringing that to something that you have as much experience as you have in martial arts, I think is just the perfect blend, you know.
Let's see on Saturday night.
We'll find out.
Should we break down this main card? Let's have a look at some of the matches on the main card. We'll talk about the fighters, we'll talk about their strengths and the opportunities that they've got to win. And then what I'd love to do as well is for each of us to have a look at one match on the prelims and see what we think about that. Because in total, we've got 17 matches slated for the night. Unfortunately,
yeah, it's a stacked card, yes.
Unfortunately, there was going to be a judo match which has fallen off due to injury.
Oh, who got injured?
One of the competitors. I'm not sure which
we
one.
We had Andy that trains with us that was on the match. And by seeing him, the way he gently throws everyone at training, I would love to watch him. You know, this judo exhibition match. I think that was a great actually move by Subversion. The Subversion had in the past wrestling exhibition match, you know, which just counting points per takedown. Now there was the judo match. There's always, the card always has gi and no gi. I believe Subversion is definitely on the right track to continue to lead the super fight events in Australia. Not even talking about the setup and production, which is second to none.
Second to none. I mean, for my mind, it's the premier submission grappling event on the Australian scene with both no gi and gi. We've got matches all across the prelims with up-and-coming athletes, up-and-coming competitors, male competitors, female competitors. We've got youth competitors who are coming through and just breaking through into the scene. And we're seeing some of this really exciting new school jiu-jitsu along with some very experienced old school styling.
And we cannot forget, in the last 2 or 3 subversions, we had UFC athletes coming in to showcase their grappling, to once again, you know, to bring the old school idea that, you know, jiu-jitsu is 100% important for MMA fighters, and we have UFC fighters that we don't know sometimes how good their grappling is, coming in and giving a show, you know, of takedowns, guard passes, back takes, submissions. You know.
Well, we've got Jamie Malaki competing against Josh Kulabel on the main card, both of whom are UFC fighters. Jamie Malaki currently in the UFC on the roster. Josh Kulabel recently stepping back from his commitments to competing in MMA professionally. Now, I believe I've been watching some of the shorts on Instagram and some of their social media feeds. What I understand is that these two actually train together quite a lot in jiu-jitsu and grappling.
Quite possibly for their camps. And a couple of things about this match. Well, both of them are coming out of wins in Subversion in grappling. I believe James Mulaki won his last match against, I could be wrong, I believe it was against Chris Cascatelli, which is a great grappler, and Josh Kulibau won his last match against no one less than Rich Walsh, which is an amazing grappler. I spend a lot of time with Rich grappling, and I can tell you it's not someone that you will take on easily in competition.
That's
And
not an easy match to win, and he's
Yeah.
a big, strong man, Rich Walsh.
very much so. And both of them coming out of wins, showcasing amazing grappling, amazing jiu-jitsu. Now we'll have them against each other, and I saw on social media that they are not only, teaching us how to come and compete, outside of MMA in the grappling, but they are demonstrating how the promotion of a fight can be done in a much more entertaining way than trash talk. I think Josh Kulibau had against Rich Walsh the bet that whoever lost will have to go and teach a seminar at the other's academy.
Right on.
And I think he stepped up now, challenged James Mulaki to tattoo their initials. Whoever loses will tattoo the initials of the other competitor. So
That is a good side bet.
That's a good one.
That's a great side bet, and it adds another layer of competition to that match, and I can't wait to see that. They're going to bring it, both of those competitors. Let's have a look at the main card to start with before we tuck into this, into these prelims. And I've got them all down here. Here we go. Let's start with the first match on the prelims. We've got Michelle Salva versus Fran Bavaro. Michelle from Gracie Barra Pinball, and Fran from Movement Martial Arts. This is a black belt match at 67 kilos, no gi. What do you know about these girls?
Well, I've known both of them since their early days of competing. I remember them competing in the blue belt, purple belt. Both of them have, I believe Fran has been a bit more active in competition as a black belt for a while, nationally, internationally, but Michelle stepped up. I believe she fought our Jazz at Subversion and she won the match. And she's always been an active, a strong competitor. So I believe it will be a very good match.
Yeah, well, Jessing, a world champion at World Masters,
Exactly.
In the gi, and that's a tough match for anyone.
I think it's worth mentioning that the female Australian Jiu-Jitsu is been breaking records. Sometimes, in Jiu-Jitsu we don't tend, but it's more commentated about the achievements that men are having, but the girls in Australia are breaking all records. There's so many girls in the world scenario becoming world champions and ADCC champions, and
look at Adele Fornerino's run last year. Absolutely
double gold,
killed it.
And I think I'm really excited to see that Subversion's also promoting and bringing more girls in, and like this match, Michelle Salva and Fran Bavaro will definitely be a good one.
Do you know what I have to say that in most sports, and I know this is probably not a politically correct thing to say, but in most sports I tend to favor watching male competitors. But when it comes to jiu-jitsu, I actually really love to watch the female competitors because they have a different body type and often a slightly different style. There's a lot more movement, a lot more flexibility. They do things that, quite frankly, most men can't do with their body and the way that they do jiu-jitsu. And I think it's a really exciting aspect of the sport as a spectator watching.
Well, I agree 100%.
So let's look at the next match, and this is one that I'm very, very excited about. We've got Lee Aguilera from Garage Grappling in Bondi against our very own Alexandre Janjinho.
Janjinho Valverde. Wait for the screen.
There's kids class downstairs.
This match, I have to say, I don't know much. I haven't seen much of Lee Aguilera competing. And talking about Shanji, the one thing that I believe is that's whenever Shanji is fighting, I'm not sure the result, but I know it will be worth your ticket. He is very good at translating the way he trains at the gym to the competition. So everything he performs in training, he very easily, loosely let go, and he'll perform the same way. And also, he doesn't like to hold back. Actually, as a coach, sometimes I'm having to coach him. I'm like, all right, you've done enough. Just, don't take more risks. So I believe this rule set's perfect for him because there's no points. You got to go until you catch the other person or you die trying. So I feel, this could be a really good match.
Well, this is a gi match at 76 kilos, both black belts. And I know that Shanjinho is a big 76 kilos.
Yeah, 77, I think. Yeah, I think it's a 77 kilos.
77
I think
kilos.
It's 77.
And you know, one thing I know about him is that he's an absolute savage on and off the mats, a hunter, a fisherman, just a savage human being. And what I love about him is that when it comes to competition, he turns it on and just brings the heat every single time.
But then, Richard, in saying all that, I'm sure when matchmaking, they will bring someone, or Lee taking on this fight is probably aware and is probably, you know, like coming in ready or as prepared as he can be for that. So I'll have my eyes on this match for sure, and I believe will be super exciting.
Yeah, I think this is a contender for match of the night for sure. So the next match that we've got Pablo Araujo from SJJA versus Chris Sales from Legends BJJ in Blacktown, and this is a male gi 72 kilo black belt match.
This match, both are experienced competitors. You know, Pablo Araujo from SJJA, it's competing everything. Like he must compete every weekend. Every comp I am at, he is competing and competing. So his rhythm of competition is pretty good. And Chris Sales, head coach of his team, very experienced as well. I remember seeing Chris Sales, you know, like competing in a lot of the comps that I've been at from the early days of, you know, competition here. So he's definitely got the experience on his side as well. He's a very active fighter, so I believe this match will definitely be, you know, full on.
I think it'll be an exciting match, but I suppose the difference maker here is that Pablo's competed on Subversion twice before. This will be his third appearance, and for Chris, this is his debut on the Subversion mat, under the bright lights, in front of this big audience.
And it does make a difference, right?
Yeah.
I always say I love competing. You know, I love competing at everything, but I believe I grow with the tournament. So if I compete a bigger tournament or a super fight event like Subversion, I believe that pressure makes me perform better. But it doesn't work that way for everybody. Some people perform better with a little bit less pressure, and the more pressure, you know, makes it a little bit more uncomfortable to compete. And I believe Chris Sales, even though it's his debut as Subversion, the level of experience and the way he competes, it shouldn't be a problem. But we will only find out on Saturday night.
We will for sure. This next match, again, another contender for match of the night. This is a killer match. We've got Nick Hughes versus Pete Gallen, no-gi male, 88 kilos. Two black belt savages bringing it to the mat.
Yes, that will be an exciting match. And I'll tell you what, this is one of the matches that will be exciting before it starts. Peter Gallen, from his walkout song, from his stepping on the mats, it's already worth a ticket. You know, it's already a performance. And not only that, but his jiu-jitsu, the way he fights forward, hunting legs, you know, like accepting the wrestling exchanges. So, you know, I'm excited to see him and Hughes having this battle over there.
On the last Subversion match, I remember Pete Gallen hitting a beautiful takedown and then just getting up and calling his partner back up so that they could exchange.
He's a showman.
Again.
He's a showman, and he wants his to be. And I've always, you know, I had many times when I'm talking to my students and competitors at the gym that I kind of speak against that side, where I'm telling people, you know, to make sure you stay secure, you calculate your risks, and you perform, you know, make sure you win and all that. But at the same time, when I see guys like Gallen, you know, doing things like that, taking people dog, calling them up, and just repeating that again and fighting, like, it's, look, super fight events, of course the win is the ultimate goal, but if there's no entertainment, you know, why we have all those bright lights for, right?
Exactly. You know, I've seen matches where, you know, it's been very, very technical, high-level jiu-jitsu without the level of entertainment and scramble, and I've seen audience members start to switch off, and because they're a little confused about what's going on. If they're not high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners themselves, they may sit there and watch and go, what are these guys doing? Whereas someone like Pete Gallen, I don't even remember whether he won or lost that last match, but I do remember the match, and I think that is a big part of what Subversion brings to jiu-jitsu and grappling, is the entertainment aspect.
But have you ever thought about this, Richard, in events, in fight events? And I always make that comment. some of the best fights you ever watched, if I ask you what was the result, you won't remember, because you're so entertained and like so hooked in watching the match and everything that both competitors were doing, that the result was almost insignificant in the end.
Agreed.
And I really like, every time, to be honest with you, a bit of an insight on how I compete. Every time I compete, we all have those, some pray, some wish, some ask the universe for something. And I believe if there is a God and we are praying for a win, my opponent is probably praying for the same thing. If everyone's praying for the same thing, God or whoever you're praying for will have to make a pick. So I always try to wish for two things: that me and my opponent don't get seriously injured, and that when my fight ends, that we are living with a big round of applause, that we are, like the crowd really loved watching us. I feel these are the two things. If I get these two things, the win could be a cherry on top,
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. That idea of having fun. The next match to talk about is Tadeu. How do you say that with the
Tadeu
Portuguese?
Lobato?
Yeah.
Tadeu Lobato from High Rollers
versus Josh Schofield.
and Josh Schofield from North South Jiu-Jitsu.
It's a 91 kilo black belt match, no gi as well.
Yes, and I think both of them have been grinding. I think Schofield had a few good matches recently. Lobato has been on the hunt on the hunt for quite a while, and he had some great matches, nationally, internationally. He's been on that hunt from solidifying his name among the top competitors, and that's a very good challenge for him on that night.
And Josh is 2-2 on the Subversion stage, so he'll be looking to get ahead and get a winning record in this match in his 5th appearance. Josh Kulabau versus Jamie Malaki. Josh from Igor MMA, and Jamie Malaki, who's now training out of freestyle MMA with Alex Volkanovski and co. This is an 80 kilo match. Josh is still a purple belt.
Yes.
Technically speaking.
Yes. Look, that's what we say, belts can be deceiving. Like both of them, of course, because of their MMA career, focus a lot more in MMA. But I had the chance, I trained a lot with Josh. He used to be my student in Jiu-Jitsu before he went into MMA. I had a chance to train a little bit with Jamie Malaki, and both of them are great Jiu-Jitsu guys. The fact that they came in the matches, they came in at Subversion. And one thing you got to think about when guys like at their level and in their position in MMA step in to a Jiu-Jitsu super fight at Subversion, they are putting a lot of stake, because they already have a name, they have a position to protect, So
they have a big reputation.
They have a big reputation
as genuine fighters,
and to come in, let's say, and let's say don't perform well or be submitted easily by someone that is not as good. And that comes to show on how much they trust in their jiu-jitsu and how much they actually come in to perform. And especially watching a few Aussie UFC fighters stepping in, how we had before Rich Walsh versus Josh Kulibau, now Jamie Malaki versus Josh Kulibau. And these two, I think, will look, it's hard to take a pick. From watching the last matches, Josh Kulibau was so on point versus Rich Walsh, but Jamie Malaki was a very calculated, dominant opponent against, I believe, Chris Cascadelli. So I wouldn't be able to predict much further than that.
Well, when you look at their MMA styles, both of them have very fun, very aggressive, forward-fighting styles in MMA. Their jiu-jitsu, when you take the striking out of it, becomes much more technical. Both of these guys have trained together, and I believe from looking at social media, they've got a little side bet.
Yes, we're looking at social media. They have this side bet that apparently the loser will have to tattoo the opponent's initials in their body.
That's an awesome
That's
bet.
been taken a little bit further. Look, I will hope that will end up at least being a cute tattoo, that they will cherish for the rest of their life. But yeah, it puts the pressure on,
Well, we'll be watching with great intent and hope to see that it's a cute tattoo.
Or any tattoo artist that would like to put your name forward, and make that happen at your tattoo studio, that could be your chance.
That could be a good chance there. We've got an interesting match in the co-main event. We've got Claudio Conti from Absolute MMA versus Josh Saunders from Sydney West Martial Arts at 108 kilos.
Yes, that's a look. Josh Saunders, he's been performing, and I've looked a little bit more into Claudio Conti, and he is a legit. It looks like he's a legit tough contender, so he could bring some serious trouble to Josh Saunders. Saunders, on the other hand, has been very dominant in the Australian scenario. He's been the main event. He currently has the title. Oh no, does he have the title at the moment?
He lost
the title last match.
He did.
But he's been very dominant in the Jiu-Jitsu scenario in Australia. He had some great appearances in the international scenario. He actually had a chance to compete against Gordon Ryan. And I'll tell you what, watching the match, he didn't win the match, but who is winning against Gordon Ryan at the moment?
He held his own as far as I could see.
And he fought extremely well. And on a side note, I had a chance one day when I visit Luke Martin's gym, Sydney West, and I had a chance to train with him, and I have to tell you, he is actually a true gentleman and very skilled on the mats. Sometimes his online personality makes him think, makes you think that he could be a little bit of a arrogant, a bit of a douche. But no, in person, I felt that he was very. I felt there were times that if he chose to crush me, he could, and he chose to be technical and gentle. So I appreciated that.
Well, he's a big man. He's very strong, and he's obviously well supplemented with, as we like to call it,
he's an
Açaí
athlete.
And Jesus.
He's been an athlete from his whole life, I believe. And that's one thing people don't take into account. It's easy to sometimes say, but this guy takes this or that or does it. Well, but what else does he do? He's been an athlete for whatever age. He
was a semi-pro rugby league player, which brings a level of toughness.
Yes.
And whether you like it or not, and Americans and people who are grappling from overseas won't understand how much playing rugby and rugby union gives you in terms of a stand-up game when it comes to takedowns.
Yeah, and you were a full athlete, just that, full stop. But there is one thing, we might agree on this, that Josh needs more challenge here in Australia. It's been difficult to find him more challenge. And do you have a name, or would you be able to who would you suggest, would you recommend someone that could actually come forward from Australia and give him a good match at the moment?
Well, if you think about Josh's profile, having competed against Gordon Ryan, he's well known on social media, but he's also well known in the jiu-jitsu scene and very dominant. And he's a huge human. I mean, he's just a massive dude, and he's competed against all the other big guys here. And admittedly, he lost his belt to Niko Maglasic at the last Subversion event. But Lucas Kennard had a pretty impressive outing against Victor Hugo.
Yes, I will agree with you. At the moment, I see Lucas Kennard in the Australian scenario, which also been having great success outside of Australia, but his match against Victor Hugo showed that he is very much prepared to compete against guys of bigger size.
Big guys.
And I saw him recently, and he honestly, he's not as big as Josh Saunders, but he definitely looks like he's prepared to deal with much bigger people than him. Also, his game, I think Australia developed quite a few guys from Craig Jones, Lachlan Giles, Lucas Kennard, Levi Leary, but guys that had, guys that had this very specific leg entanglement game, which in my opinion is not even if I were to train people for ADCC rules, I don't think the leg attacks should be the main part of training. I believe, your wrestling, head control and back takes, but that Australia was very good at forming some athletes that kind of work outside of the spectrum.
When you look at Lucas Kennard competing for such a big athletic human, he has an incredible guard, huge flexibility, and obviously his leg lock game is second to none. Josh training out of Sydney West Martial Arts, who have an excellent leg lock game and system and knowledge of that entire part of the game.
But I'll be curious to see how he would deal. Because I believe this match is a match where Lucas Kennard would easily accept the bottom game.
Easily.
And what happens there? would, you know, like, is he able to take pressure of a big opponent trying to pass his guard? I believe so. I believe he will deal with that well. Will Josh then, you know, be able to, you know, pass and get top control without putting his legs at risk if the leg entanglement happens? You know, like, both are experienced. Who will take it? You know, is that even a good strategy for Josh to enter there?
Well, yes. One, is it a good strategy for him to enter? Two, can he prevent Lucas Kennard from getting a good bite on the legs? Because
from top or bottom?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good fantasy match.
Let's leave that with, you know, the bosses of Subversion. You know, could be, well, or maybe let's put over. Let's get people to comment and put their name. Are you interested in seeing Josh Saunders versus Lucas Kennard? If that's what the people want, maybe the boss of Subversion will have to bring him in.
Let us know in the comments, and then we can put it forward. I like that. So that's the co-main event: Claudio Conti versus Josh Saunders. It is Claudio's debut. He's been in training for 8 years. He was a Sambo fighter for a couple of years before that. If you've ever trained with Sambo fighters, it's a nasty art.
And they're also, well, there's combat Sambo, you know, but they are also very proficient at leg attacks, which, being a big guy, plays well legs. Training an absolute, he's definitely training, you know, like Lachlan, I believe, will be in camp now training, so you know, it could be an extremely exciting match.
And in our main event, we have João Marco de Albuquerque.
João Marco, yes.
And James Wunton, sometimes known as Jimmy Xguard, Scrappling on Instagram. James is not very well known here in the Australian scene. This is his debut on Subversion. I actually had a match with James at Brown Belt at Nationals in the adults division.
Yes.
Despite my senior age.
But you compete in any division, right? You compete whatever there's someone to fight, so that's pretty cool. And what do you have to tell us about James?
What I like about James is he's a very aggressive competitor. He's a very forward. He fights forward. He fights aggressively. He's very technical. He's very fast and explosive. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he can bring that game and impose that game on this match.
Yeah, as well, that would be really interesting, because João Marco, you know, it's also a great competitor, and he's been competing at Subversion. I believe he's got maybe 3 wins already.
3 wins, no losses.
3 wins, and he had tough matches against guys like Jake Odristol, you know, that is a very good leg locker from Australia as well, and he's been very dominant. I'm not sure. I believe he would have gotten all his fights by submission at this stage.
He's won by guillotine. He's won 1 on points, and what was the other one? I can't remember how he won the match against Jake.
But he's very, very, very dominant, and I think Subversion took the right step, you know, on making this a title, a welterweight title match, because, you know, like, I think it will be worth it. It will be worth the viewers seeing that as a title. And João Marcos has been deserving. He's working so hard on it, you know, and it will be exciting to see our main event.
Well, that's at 77 kilos, no gi. So we've got a good mix across the weight classes. We've got a good mix across gi and no gi. We've got some super exciting matches. Is there anything on the undercard that stands out to you? I know that you've got the undercard there. I am really interested in seeing Josh McKenzie versus Kainoa Roberts. They're both purple belts. It's a 60 kg match. I've seen this young man, Kainoa Roberts from Gracie Botany, compete a few times, and he's only just turned 18 and been promoted to purple belt. He won gold at Pan Pacs, and whenever I've seen him competing on the circuit, very, very exciting young man to watch.
Oh, that's good. Look, I'm always up for putting some of our youngsters in the big scenario, you know, in the big scene of the main events. One is like to give them the experience of it, I think, and look, to be competing in events like Subversion open a few doors for you, you know, and as a young competitor, sometimes it doesn't seem like much, but to have to be able to be on the scene and get sponsored that will cover sometimes things as simple as entry for future tournaments, your traveling expenses, which sometimes could be, not much for someone that is working full time and competing, but when you have a young competitor, I think that makes a big difference. And plus getting that experience and being able to live the moment, there's nothing cooler in my opinion than when the walking out to your song, seeing your face on the big screen and having that pump, like that. Sometimes a lot of us athletes end up seeing that a little bit later in life after you get a lot of good results and you get to black belt. This idea of opening the big stage to young competitors is always positive.
Yeah, and it gives them a great chance to experience what it's like on the big stage under the bright lights and to see if they shine. What a great opportunity. And to your point too, as a young competitor, if you're thinking about competing regularly and you want to compete all the time, it is a consideration that you've got to pay entry fees. It is a consideration that you've got to travel and you've got to eat well and you've got to train a lot. And so to have that if you can perform well, get sponsors and have those costs covered, then that's just a piece of stress taken off the mind. So then you can just focus.
Of course, yeah, that's great. One match that I have that I'm looking forward to, match number 8, we'll have, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, Tedeki versus Collier. Look, I believe Ty Collier has been coming up and having great matches. He's a very tough competitor. He's another guy that every time I go to tournaments or I go compete, he's usually present competing. He's been competing at brown belt and getting really good results. And speaking with George last week from Subversion, he even mentioned that depending on the performance on Collier now could be our Adrian Hart's next match.
Ooh.
So it will be exciting to see what happens, and we don't know, maybe whoever wins, maybe if Tedek or Collier wins, that could be Adrian that had
a fantastic performance on the last Subversion, got the performance bonus for the night,
and I'm excited to see, because Collier it's been often performing super well. Now he's got a new challenge for this weekend, and there is already a challenge in the horizon for whatever happens that night. So
I like it.
And don't forget the brown belts. One thing that we sometimes don't give enough credit is for brown belt competitors. I feel that brown belts are usually the most dangerous guys in the gym, because they are those guys that are one step away from getting to black belt. They came too far to give up, so they are in that position that they are trying to prove themselves every day of training, in every tournament they go. Imagine brown belt in a super fight event like Subversion. It's like,
well, the skill level is pretty much equivalent to a black belt. They just don't have the same level of experience and time.
Yes.
They're finally turning up for warm-ups, having given up the purple belt.
yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
They're having to take it seriously again, because the next step is a big step. I'm excited to see. There's so many matches that will be cool.
I like that one. So that's Subversion X8.
X8 on Saturday. We will be commentating. It'll be cool to have a packed house, everyone watching. Let us know, send us messages, let us know if there's anything you would like to know, or for us to bring it on a day. And
yeah, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to have the best seat in the house.
Exactly.
To have food and drink served to us while we just talk about matches, the best, most exciting matches that are happening right in front of us. So
that's it.
That's going to be a fun one. As we move on with our mat chats, meat pies, Açaí, and Getting Uncomfortably Intimate, I want to talk about the uncomfortably intimate moment of the week. And in Jiu-Jitsu, we get pretty close to each other.
We do.
Sometimes, and this happened last night at training, someone farts. What's your opinion?
It does happen. Look, my opinion is it's whenever it happens, I believe 99.9% of the times is not on purpose. If it can be ignored, politely ignored, let's do it. Or if you address it, if it's funny, just don't make it awkward. Don't make it awkward. It will happen to the best of us, depending how you're feeling on the day, and you will have people pressing you, twisting you, knee on the belly. you won't have control of it all the time. It shouldn't ruin your training, you know.
I reckon there's two types of farts at Jiu-Jitsu. There's the one that you can't ignore because you hear it,
Yeah.
and there's the silent but potentially violent.
Yes,
The one that you ignore until you can't ignore it.
Look, if it's me, if it happens to me, and I can smell it, I will stop with my partner and I say, look, I'm really sorry, let's move out of here. You know, I will do that, you know, because it is worse. You ignore it, you start like sweating even more. You know if I can smell, he can smell. You know, he or she can smell. So I may as well say something. You know what I mean?
You got to say something.
Sometimes, you know, if it's just loud, just say, look, sorry, apologies,
Hey,
keep rolling.
that was me.
You know, if it's a bit more unpleasant, then just, you know,
Move away.
Have a little pause, move away, and keep training. You know, like this.
Yeah, I suppose you know the main difference is, or my one thing I would say is, don't fart when you've got someone in a triangle.
No. Yeah, no.
That's the worst.
Well,
Now, we got a little segment called Roll Call that I want to bring in here, where we get to talk about each week something in the Jiu-Jitsu world, whether it's a specific athlete we want to talk about, a technique, a meme that's currently going around. But what I wanted to ask you is, have you had a moment this week as a head coach of a large academy where you've said in your head or felt, I'm not upset, I'm disappointed?
I would say I have this moment. I'm not upset, I'm disappointed, but it wasn't specifically at the gym or in a class that I was teaching. I've been having this moment ongoing, I would say, Richard, at the moment, with one situation that we have in Jiu-Jitsu, which is the gi and no gi. We are celebrating this year 100 years since the Gracie family developed this amazing martial art that we call Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. It used to be the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And we had, you know, Master Helio Gracie and the whole Gracie family developing, training the whole world in it. We had guys like Royce Gracie taken into the biggest challenge in the world, which was UFC, when it was martial art versus martial art in a gi, fighting anyone, any weight, UFC 1, 2, 3, and 4, to prove that Jiu-Jitsu was the ultimate martial art. And now we fast forward to 2025, 100 years from the beginning, and we are here discussing if you should train gi or no gi, if they work against each other. If you train too much gi, you're not going to be good at no gi. If you train no gi, you're not going to progress in the gi, or almost like they are, you know, not complementing each other. And I find that out of all things that we have wrong in today's world, you know, I know it could be an old guy thing to say like, oh, no, in my time things were better, but this is one thing that when I hear it, it doesn't make upset or angry, it just makes me disappointed with the new generation, because it's Jiu-Jitsu. We are progressing. What do you think of that?
Well, I'll say one thing about that, because I don't believe that there's any valid argument to say that no gi is better than gi at all. I have a strong opinion on that, and I will point to...
And vice versa.
I'll point to our head coach, Wera Oliveira, his results at Panpak. Now, how often do you think he trains no gi?
Once or twice a week if he trains. Well, he coaches no gi, but he doesn't train often.
Doesn't train often. So
not
he
even
wears
close
the
to
gi.
the level that he trains gi.
He trains in the gi a lot, and he won gold in the gi and in no gi in his weight and in open weight at Panpak.
With all submissions.
All submissions right across the board.
Yes, and not only him. Many of us at Legacy compete gi and no gi, you know, and training 60-40, 70-30, whatever ratio you want to train.
Do you want to know my training ratio for
what is
gi
your
and
ratio?
no gi? My training ratio is about 100 to 1 gi, no gi. About once or twice a year I train no gi.
How has your no gi performance been?
I've won medals in no gi. In fact, I won gold at Panpak's no gi.
There you go. It complements. Of course, there are intricacies about specific things in the gi and specific things in no gi. You will not be, if you are a guy that is playing lapel guard, you are not going to be playing that in jiu-jitsu. If your game is based on leg entanglement, grips and heel hooks, well, you're not going to be doing heel hooks in the gi, but that's the 10% or less on either side. Everything else is jiu-jitsu. If you think of the main teams in the world, I will use an example, Atos Jiu-Jitsu, with the most number of qualified, 2 ADCCs ago, the most number of qualified competitors on ADCC, the most number of champions. Most of their ADCC champions are also gi champions, oftentimes from the same year. And I'm just using one team as example, but if you look, a lot of the champions in no gi, Vitor Hugo is an example. That beat Nick Rod, which is a full-time no gi
ex-wrestler.
It beats him in no gi. He's a gi guy. You get Nicolas Marigali that made that crazy transition in 6 months from gi and never having competed in no gi, performing super well. So I think, look, I rest my case on this argument, but I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed.
I like it, like a classic dad. So that is our first episode of Matt Chats, Meat Pies and Açaí and Getting Uncomfortably Intimate. Thanks for rolling with us. That was a fun chat.
That was a fun chat.
Hopefully we can do it again.
Was.
Hey.